Welcome back, baseball fans, to another edition of the Prep Baseball Report of North Carolina podcast. I'm Brandon Hall. He's Matt Payne, and we're going to sit down and talk a little bit about high school baseball across North Carolina and some other items that may be affecting recruiting or the state playoffs or whatever else we want to get into. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
Another busy week. I know I traveled a little bit last week, so I feel a little bit out of the loop, having not been to quite as many games as we're used to covering, but we're still trying to unpile from our spring break stuff and get all of that stuff written out without just bombarding the website all at once. And, getting ready to, kind of start looking ahead to state playoffs. It's that time of year.
Yep. Conference tournaments next week for most conferences. And then looking forward to the day the brackets come out. And I'm sure we'll probably do something with that and be looking at those. And then it's the most exciting time of the year for high school baseball.
There you go. And our jobs get easier because it goes from being 400 teams to 200 fairly quickly and from 200 to 100 and 100 to 50. So it keeps kind of funneling down and, we'll continue our coverage, but, it's easier to get to everything. You don't feel like you're missing as much. And, talking about that, let's talk a little bit. Our Player of the Weeks came out on Tuesday. Our Diamond Notes came out on Wednesday. This podcast should drop on Thursday. And obviously all of that stuff is on the website, prepbaseballreport.com. Top, click on North Carolina and then go to our news section. You can click on that. But Matt, as you're filtering through all of that information, obviously we spotlight the player of the week every week. We do some stuff on them on social and they've got a story up and we're highlighting their stats. But it's kind of that time of year where we're looking at it going, man, there's some players that have had really good seasons that we haven't spotlighted. Is there a name that kind of comes to mind? Just in terms of the guy hadn't gotten recognition yet, but we're trying to. We just haven't been able to pick him for that spot yet.
Yeah, Tate Jones at Walter Williams High School. He's in there every week pitching. Seems like he throws a complete game shutout or maybe gives up one run, strikes out double digits, and every week you think you scroll through it, he's the player of the week, and then there's somebody in there who threw a no-hitter in a rivalry game or punched out 16 or 17 against a quality opponent, and it's like you try to get it to him every week, and his numbers have been great, and it just doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that name because it was the exact name I was thinking of, and it has been. I think we've done 8 weeks, we've done 7 awards. I think he's finished second in the pitching 4 or 5 times out of the 7 awards that we've given for pitcher of the week, and it really has been. He punched 12 and somebody else punched 17. He throws a one-hitter, somebody throws a no-hitter. But it's week after week after week, and I think that's kind of helped as we're going through it. We're wanting to give Tate some recognition and put him out there because the year has been so good, and he's kind of kept Williams, he's propelled them into a position where they've got a chance to do some special things. And we just haven't been able to put his picture on that slide yet and say, hey, here's our player of the week. So
let me give you his stats right here, the latest ones we have. He's through 46 innings. He's punched 75. He's allowed 6 total runs, and opponents are hitting 106 against him. So have a year, Tate Jones.
The fastball's good. The delivery's athletic. The arm's athletic. You watch him, and it's not just overwhelming. Oh, my gosh, look at the power stuff. And he can pitch a little bit. I mean, the ball's sinking and moving. He's got a slider off it. He's got, he can attack hitters in multiple ways. So he's kind of a fun guy to watch from that aspect too. So, I talked to their head coach at Walter Williams yesterday. I'm hoping to get out there next week. Obviously the Seahawks T-ball team, we're in full go mode right now. So trying to balance schedules and see my daughter play as many times as I can and also see all these high school guys has been an interesting task here of late. But tell me if I'm wrong on this. We try not to root for anybody, but there comes a point in the year where we're like, okay, we haven't seen this guy and he's taken off in the last 3 weeks. We need them to win this week so they get to next week.
Definitely. And then you see those guys and, you start checking scores every night, kind of whether it's a player you've liked or a team you're kind of starting to like or pulling for, you seem to check those box scores first.
That's a good segue into, kind of getting ready for the state tournament. Obviously we've got our Power 25 is out. We've got teams that are ranked in the region and I think we got 8 or 9 teams on the Mid Atlantic region rankings. We've got 2 teams in the national rankings at number 23 and number 25 in the country at East Forsyth and Wake Forest. East Forsyth took a loss on Tuesday. They'll get a chance again, I think, on Thursday or Friday to play West Forsyth again, but West Forsyth knocked them off. Harrison Lewis was absolutely dynamic, pitched a really, really good game, and I think that's a great sign in terms of where West is, but I think it's also a good thing for East is that sense of urgency. This can happen on any given night. We can run into an arm. Not that they played bad. It was a 4-2 game. Norby threw for East, and they're right there in it, and just had 1 4-run inning, kind of knock them off the block. But as we're looking ahead, Matt, who are some of the teams that you're kind of excited to see what they do in the postseason, regardless of where they are in our Power 25? Teams that you feel like are priming themselves to make runs.
I immediately go to that conference. You look, they have West and East Forsyth. Reagan has been playing really well right now, and I think last time I looked, they were high in the RPI in North Carolina. And then you also have Davie in there, who's has a good offensive club. They may not have the dominant arm, but
Right.
those teams from that league, when they get in the playoffs, they can beat anybody there early. So you draw one of them teams in the first 2 rounds, be really interesting to see what happens there. And um, it looks like Providence is starting to play better. Started the year in our Power 25, struggled. They've had some big wins lately, and a team I like is Southern Lee. Haven't
Yep.
been able to get them in the Power 25. Saw them at Battle at the Boneyard a few weeks ago over spring break, and they have some arms and they play the game hard. That's a sleeper team for me heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm looking through some of the 4A East. I mean, the East at the 4A, you got Hanover, you got Pinecrest, you got Middle Creek, you got Wake Forest. And we look at the West real quick. Obviously, East Forsyth, we've talked about Reagan right there in their conference. Weddington, who again is from a conference down here in the Charlotte area that really primes teams to be ready for the tournament. TC Roberson, again, is starting to pull away in their conference. Audrey Kell and Providence, you mentioned. Alexander Central has an arm. We haven't talked a whole lot about Hickory Ridge, but Hickory Ridge has Garrett Pine on the front end, and they have some intriguing depth in their lineup. So at the 4A level, we hear those names a lot. I'm going to go down real quick. Let's look at the 2A East. And when we look at North Lenoir as a school, they're 13-2 right now. Has been intriguing to kind of follow. Whiteville sitting at 10-6, but played a very strong schedule. And we all know what they're doing at the end of the year. Midway 16-2, played a fairly good schedule, and we'll kind of see what happens as they get into it. Look at the 2A West. East Rutherford's had a good year, 16-3. Randleman 17-4, and they've been tested. They've played a really good schedule, so it's not the same Randleman as last year where they were just rolling through people. I think this club's going to play with a sense of urgency, but they've also learned how to win some close games. So I think as they get into the tournament, it's going to be a little bit different club. And Matt, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about some of these clubs. I can get back to where I want to be. The 1A is where I kind of wanted to be. Is we don't spend a ton of time on some of these 1A teams. Just smaller schools, smaller regions. Trying to get people to the website and things like that. Maybe not as big a fan base. But Roxborough Community, a team that's made a run each of the last couple of years, they're sitting at 10-3. Voyagers played well, played a decent schedule. North Duplin was kind of a team out of nowhere last year that made a run. They're back at 17-2 this year. And that's on the east side. As we look at the west, Cherryville, 16-4. And they've got a guy on the front end that has won a bunch of games for them. URA Charter is playing very well. They're 11-9, but they've played an extremely tough schedule for a 1A school. And we look through, I think the playoffs, as we're looking through all this stuff, we're looking at there being a lot of competitive balance. Maybe some first round games we'll be able to sit there and fill in our bracket. But I don't know that as we get to second round, you and I are going to match a ton moving through the rest of the tournament, because it may come down to who that starter is and how do we know about their depth. Do they have a bullpen? Do they have one big inning in them? Can they come back from a 5-2 deficit by hanging a 6 spot in the 6th? And those things are going to play out in the tournament.
Yeah, you a team for me in the 2A West is West Stanley. Uh, Having a good year.
Couple
Dropped a
arms.
couple early, but they do have arms and they got some thump in that lineup too. And then you have East Surrey with Folger Boaz.
Yep.
He can beat anybody, and their experience for playing deep in the playoffs. And then you got Moorhead sitting right there in the West with Anderson Nance too. So that'll get interesting there. East Rutherford's having a good year, and um, be a lot of matchups. And I know we talked about the 4A earlier, but you mentioned New Hanover and Hoggard and all those teams in that conference with tops. So I mean, there'll be some teams out of that conference that have lower seeds that you may see in the third or fourth round of the playoffs.
Yeah. And the groupings of the playoffs, it'll be interesting to see how the groupings play out because obviously it seems like it's Raleigh versus Raleigh, Charlotte versus Charlotte, Greensboro, High Point against each other, Wilmington against each other. But there's always that one part of the bracket where somebody travels early and they get out of their region. And I think that has a chance for maybe a 3 seed in a conference to pull an upset early and get out of their area and go play in some other areas and kind of show off the strength of their what they've done. And I think the team that obviously if New Hanover wins their conference, they're going to be at home. But a team like Hoggard, Topsail, may finish a little bit further down, may not get the seeding they actually deserve. And they go on the road and they play a team they're just better than because of that seeding. And then boom, they got a chance to take off because now they're kind of in that pocket of that bracket where they're outside of that their own area. So excuse me,
And
it's
would
always interesting to see how teams handle that. And then with that team also, how do they handle the road? How do they handle being on the bus? How do they handle getting back to school late, staying engaged in school? Because we know for whatever reason, baseball players and their academics kind of trend together. When we're playing well, we do well academically, and when we're doing well academically, we play well. And so I think those things can kind of trend together through May as well.
Yeah, another interesting place to look is the 3A West. Uh, you have the conference that has North Lincoln, who's playing really well right now, East Lincoln, St.
Yep.
Stephen's, all those guys, playing the same conference. They'll be a good team with a low seed out of that league. Then you have West Henderson with Truett Manuel up in the mountains, gives you a front line arm, and then West Rowan. You've seen a few times this year.
Yep.
They're hot right now. They swept East Rowan last week, and they may not have a dominant arm, but they do have a little depth in the lineup, and I know Coach Graham will have them guys playing hard.
And they've given their arms some confidence. They've got some younger guys in the front end, but they've played really stellar defense behind them, and basically just telling us, hey, throw strikes, just throw strikes, and we're going to be fine because that lineup's got a chance to score 5, 6, 7 runs every night and put some pressure on guys. So the other thing that's interesting out of that region is, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody when I say this, but you get a little bit of the 1A, 2A feel in some bigger areas in that Lincoln County at West Henderson, at even TC Roberson. You have that hometown. They kind of really buy into that school. A lot of people that went to that school are still living in that area. Grandparents are in that area. So when they get to the playoffs, I can remember going to East Lincoln a couple of years ago, who wasn't highly regarded. They weren't a high seed, but they got into the third round, and all of a sudden you show up, and there's freaking 2,500 people at a stadium that really only holds 600. And they are packed and crammed in there, and I couldn't see anything. I'm trying to evaluate pitchers, and I basically just sat, got my popcorn, and watched the game because I couldn't do any evaluation. I was at such a bad angle. But the environment was special. And the environment at this level, and we see it, we see it at the pro level. We saw it in the World Baseball Classic. The environment can affect outcomes. Players, I think, at the pro level, at the college level, have a chance to adapt to the environment fairly quickly, but the environment can affect how things are going to happen. One bad inning in a one-game deal, and you're done. And so if you don't adjust to the crowd and get into your game fairly quickly, boom, you're down 4, you're playing uphill, and you start running out of outs in a big-time hurry.
Yeah, that's a thing that's exciting for us is going to some of those places and catching the good atmosphere and some of those big matchups. And there'll be some very intriguing matchups early, and there'll be some teams that we think could possibly win a state title that go down early.
Yeah. Yeah. So always a fun time of year. And, we've seen. I haven't done the count recently, but I know we're up over 220 high schools across the state that we've seen. Ideally, we get a chance to see a bunch more here in the next 2 weeks, and then into the playoff season. I think we'll start to see some of the teams we've already seen because we're trying to follow talent, and typically talent will lead itself through the tournament. So great time of year, but with all the things that we've seen, we're going to get into something a little bit I consider to be fun. Now, this can be taken the wrong way as us attacking people, and I hope it's not taken that way, but things that drive me, things that drive you nuts at games, pet peeves. You're watching, and it's just something that you just want to stop the game. And if I was running practice, I would stop it. If it was an inter squad game, we would just shut it down and get it right. But even as I'm talking about it, I've got more coming to mind, so I'm going to continue to write down some of my pet peeves here. But Matt, we'll let you start. Give me one of your pet peeves in terms of things that you see at games that you're like, okay, this is not right.
This probably doesn't affect winning and losing, but bad music.
Okay.
Creating a little atmosphere there. You go into some of these parks and it's a big moment for those kids, and you go in some places and they just have good music, good feel. It's about to be an exciting game, big game. Look at that, and then never fails. Guys going to the plate and they're going up to hit, and nobody went and got the bat for them. I know we used to do
So the hitter has to get out of his routine, and
yep,
now he's the bat boy before he's getting ready to have the biggest at bat of his career.
yeah, coming up with second, third, chance to win a game, and he's got to go find the bat that's over near the other team's dugout, throw it back, jog back to the box, and then get ready to hit. So
I'm going to start. And again, so it's interesting how we start because you can tell our backgrounds a little bit. But I'm going to start with defensive positioning.
oh,
It's just take a piece of paper. If you're a fan of high school baseball, take a piece of paper and draw the field. Okay, draw the bases. You don't have to be an artist, but then draw the outfield like your foul territory and kind of mark on the paper how much foul territory there is, and then watch the left fielder and the right fielder. They will split the distance in about 80% of games we go see between the foul territory and the center fielder. And so where they should be is if I'm the right fielder, I should be on the line created between third and second base. Just extend that line all the way out. That's straight up. First base to second base, my left fielder, that's straight up. And so because the game's played in the middle, you see guys start to shift because they want to be in between the shortstop or second baseman, or the shortstop or third baseman, or the second baseman and first baseman, or they want to cover, just feel like they've got everything covered in foul territory. Foul balls don't hurt you. Foul balls fine. But when singles fall, when a ball is hit in the air for 5 seconds and we don't get anywhere close to it and ends up being a double, that's a problem. And now we're looking at the pitcher going, man, he's got to be better than that. No, he just got a fly ball. That should be an out. We should have been positioned better. So that's my first one, and we could go on the infield too and start talking about where the third basemen are and the first basemen are and where we are on bunt situations, where we are on two strike situations. And I know arm strength plays into it a little bit, but not as much as we're seeing. And I used to mark this stuff down and kind of keep track, but you would see hundreds of hits a year because of positioning. And if we just be positioned differently, yeah, maybe we'd give up a hit here or a double there. But the positioning does affect games. And we really do see when we get in the state playoffs, teams that position their players better win games, especially one-run games. Matt, you got a
yeah.
second one for me?
No, you see a lot of teams defending foul territory. We see that all the time. Going with that is with a runner on second base. It drives me crazy when you have both middle guys trying to hold the runner at second base. You got them both in there, going in and out, and it just it opens up holes. And it's kind of like the first and third play where guys steal, and then both middle guys, one guy's trying to cover, and another guy's
Yeah.
trying to run the fake cut or the cut, and then you just got the middle of the field wide open, and somebody shoots one through there and run scores, and the guy on first may have a chance to score there if if your outfield's out of position.
Runs are at a premium. If we're just going to give up runs, especially in a one game and done scenario, we're just going to give up a run because we're going to take both middle guys and cross them. My second one's similar to yours, and it's covering second base on steals. So the way we taught it was if you got a runner on first and it's less than 2 outs, obviously both middle infielders should be at double play depth. We're going to sacrifice a little bit of range for the chance to get 2 outs and get out of the inning. When they're at double play depth, they should be able to get to the bag and be sitting and waiting on the ball. We get a lot of pop times, and we see a lot of video, and we get a lot of video sent to us on pop times. 184 in game, 191 in game. And when you really look at the video and you watch where the second baseman or shortstop catch the ball, they're running through the catch. They're not stopped and waiting on the ball to come. They're running, and they're about 6 feet in front of the bag. And so now as you're watching this podcast, I want you to think back to your high school season. How many times from where you're sitting in the stands have you seen your second baseman and shortstop catch it and tag and miss the guy by 3 feet? Now, you can't tell you missed him. You just see the umpire go safe, and you're like, what? How is he safe? That ball beat him. The tag missed him by 6 feet because the guy's so far in front of the bag. He's got to get to the bag. That's an out. If we throw it on plane, it's an out. So he's got to get to the bag and be sitting there. We have a runner in first. The offense is forcing us to leave something open. So we're either going to do one of two things. We can let him have second, or we've got to vacate where we don't think they're going to hit the ball. So if it's a right-handed hitter, we should have the second baseman. Most guys are going to pull the ball on the ground. Second baseman should be covering. He should be in double play depth, and he should be able to get there in time to sit there and watch it. With 2 outs, one guy is at double play depth. He can't be at his normal depth and still get to second base. There's not a single athlete in this state that can do that. They have to be shortened up to be able to get there. And that's just the way it is. So I'm watching that. And when you're watching the game and thinking about that, if I'm an offensive coach and I see both guys back, immediately I'm thinking second base is ours. There's nothing they can do if I have a decent jump and even an average runner where they're going to throw me out because they're not going to be on time to the bag.
Yeah, I saw it a couple of times last night. Middle guys late to the bag, really late. Going with that base running, guys not moving up on dirt balls, and then you watch some base runners. There's some bad secondary leads out there where guys don't really get an aggressive secondary. Balls hit down the line. Balls hit down the line, and you think the guy had a chance to score, but bad secondary, and that. In those high school games, if you can get a guy in scoring position quick, it changes how guys are pitched. It gives you a chance to add another run, and runs are at a premium this time of year.
Base running equals runs, and it's not just running hard. It's the turns and the angles. When do we go first to third? When do we press first to third? If we haven't been pressing first to third on singles throughout the entire high school season, and then we're going to do it in the state playoffs, we're going to get somebody thrown out because they don't know how to go to first to third. But now that run it's a 6th inning and we're down 1 and there's 1 out and we're going to get to third base and this guy hasn't gone first to third all year. He just shuts it down about halfway to second. Now he's going to press it. He's going to get thrown out. The other thing off of that drives me absolutely insane, and this is my background because this was something that was instilled in me at a younger age and then hammered in at the college level with the guys that I coached with and played for, is the third base coach. And again, we're not attacking anybody. So don't take this to, oh my gosh, they saw us play. He's talking about. I'm not talking about any one coach. You coached third for a while, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
Runner on first. He's going to have a decision to make on a ball behind him. So he gets a secondary ball hit down the first base line, and maybe it's going to be hit behind him, and he's already in the 4-hole. Where are you positioned so that he can see you as he's getting to second base?
Nobody's ahead of him. I'm trying to get towards the left field to get him a view when he's coming around second.
You're down the line. So he's coming at you, and his head turn isn't cranked. He's running to second, and it's just a quick peek, but you're not a full 90-degree turn. He can see you. And that's the ball that he needs help with. Anything in front of him, base runners should be able to go on their own and see it. Now let's say you have runners on first and second. And is that what I want? Nope, let's go runner on first. Runner on first, ball hit down the first base line into the corner. So you're going to go down to left field. Obviously he's coming. So you're waving him. Now, where do you have to go? Because you've got to make a decision on the first base runner to get whether or not he's going to score.
Yeah, I'm getting down the line close to home plate to
Yep.
help him out, and then
So you've got to go
if you're
60 to 90 feet, right?
yep, get
Okay.
down,
Now,
and that way I can stop him as late as possible if I need to.
okay, let's say you score him. Okay. You make a decision,
Yep.
bang, we're going to roll him through. Now you have the batter runner. Now where do you have to get to?
You got to get back up and
You got to
get
get all
once
the
you
way back
release
down
that
the
guy
line.
scoring, you got to get back up to give him a read or help him with the slide or whatever. So you can be pretty active over there, trying to see everything, and depending on the park, seeing balls in the corner, you can lose visualization
Right.
and then I think also doing that in inner squad so base runners get used to where you're going to be and how you do it and
And
I've
what's your
seen guys be
terminology?
successful at it. Yeah, yeah, or if they can even hear you or what your signals are.
So 2 points on that. One, we played against Rice when I was at Charlotte, and Wayne Graham coached third. He was 136 years old. I mean, it. We put a watch on him going to the mound. I know he was taking his time, but he couldn't have gone much faster. And from their dugout to the mound was 2 minutes and 25 seconds. But he coached third, and he, at his age, he got past third base and he got up the line. Now he was positioning himself pre-pitch, so when the ball was hit, he wasn't having to move. He was already in the right spot pre-pitch, so he would have to move here or there. But he got to the right spot. When he couldn't, a couple years later, he was in the dugout. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is if you do this right, you have a chance to steal some runs because for us when we played at Wilmington, we played at Wilmington. It was instilled. Our third base coach there did a great job. Coach Wilkins is now the AD. Was it Barton? He's in South Carolina now. But anyway, there was no verbal, and so everything was handsets because we're going to play in an environment. We're going to play in front of 8,000 people. You're not going to hear him anyway, so it's no verbal. And his deal was if he's running at you and his hands are up, that's the stop sign. He's gonna physically go at you and the hands are up. So he's gonna be early enough with his stop sign that he can move towards the runner and stop him. But the other thing that he would do at times on bang bang plays at the plate, especially from left field, where the third baseman's the cut, is he would be rolling the guy home, and then as the guy passed him, he would start to run past the runner. So as soon as he got past the runner, then his hands would go up and he would be yelling, stop, 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 stop. He would get cuts. The third baseman would cut it and start diving towards the bag. And then now we bang bang plays at home, there's not even a play. And so you get base runners used to what you're going to do. You can steal runs. You can make close plays, non-plays. You can have your runner that scores first to home and get your batter runner to third base without a play because they don't hesitate. They know exactly where you're going to be and they're full speed all the way. They're never looking to see what's happening, especially with that ball behind them. So
Yeah,
that
and
was
those third base those guys are reading the throw into the cutoff man too, and a lot of guys who are locked in. If you see that the relay guy's going to have to move his feet one way or another, you can really push it and steal a run because even if he catches that ball, he's not in a good throwing position to throw one to the plate, and you can still run right there.
So I coach. This gets me to my next one, which was cuts and relays, and the positioning on cuts and relays. And it can be very specific, but we're always throwing ahead of runners. We're always positioned to the lead runner. Where are you supposed to be? A ball down the third baseline. You should not line up in a straight line. You should actually be in fair territory, even if it angles the throw a little bit. We should be in fair territory because where's the runner going to be? He's going to be in foul territory. And if we're in foul territory, we're angling the throw through him. So we've got to get back so our catcher has a chance. But the one that always gets me, and I watch it every single day with infield, outfield. I coached at the college level for almost 20 years. I saw two guys thrown out at home plate in almost 20 years on balls that a first baseman or third baseman cut and then threw to the catcher on sac fly, not a tandem relay, but on sac flies or base hits with a runner on second. Do you remember anybody in your time being thrown out at the plate from second base on a single when a ball was cut by the first baseman or third baseman?
No, I did see it in a high school game this year though, but you
Okay,
don't see it much, and
and that is a good point because the playing level is a little bit different. The speed of the game is different. So at the high school level, maybe we have to work on that a little bit. But throws need to be through cutoff guys so they can redirect. not so that they can direct the ball where it's supposed to go. So that means the cutoff guy needs to be in line with where the ball's going, and then the cutoff guy needs to be working to redirect the ball to get the backside runner. But we see it time after time after time, and I've got 7 or 8 what would have been bang plays at the plate this year, where the first baseman or third baseman cut it and relayed it. If they had just let it go through, probably a short hop for the catcher, and it would have been a great play for him to pick through and tag, but they have no shot when they cut it. Guy's safe by 4 feet.
Yeah, or they're not getting deep enough in their setup either to where,
Yeah,
they're so far out that it makes the read easy, and the trail guy, his read's easy, and just never getting into position from the start.
that's it. We always taught 30 feet. We should be 30 feet, 60 feet from home plate, 30 feet from the bag. And that's that area. That way we can be athletic and move through a ball. If we let it go through, it should be a long hop into the catcher. So, and again, arm strength matters. The talent and speed of the game is different. So it can be, there's some things high school coaches have to make sure that they understand with each team. We'll go back to cuts and relays. When we did our tandems with our middle guys. Our first baseman was never in a tandem relay. He was always trailing the runner to second. Well, that ball down the first baseline, your shortstop had better be freaking athletic. You want to know why coaches want guys that can run it short and guys that have quickness? It's that play. They've got to get all the way across and be on time to set up 15 feet behind the second baseman and still handle that relay and direct it while seeing base runners, while communicating with the second baseman. And so that athleticism may not exist at the high school level, and you may have a first baseman that's athletic. Typically at the college level, the shortstop's going to be the better athlete. You want him handling the ball more. But at the high school level, you may have a pitcher playing first just to save his arm some, and we don't mind him handling the baseball. So coaches have those decisions to make. It's yearly because their rosters do change every year. You got one more for me?
Yeah, you see it all the time. Pitchers get breaking ball heavy at times, especially down near the bottom of the orders, and they get in a lot of 2-2, 3-2 counts, and the pitch count rule. A lot of times, if you're going to win a game, you need that guy to go 7, and all of a sudden you're spinning up breaking ball after breaking ball to 7, 8, 9 guys and a lot of deep counts, and instead of maybe just throwing a fastball and getting some weak contact there early.
Yeah, if I'm an evaluator and I'm out evaluating pitchers, can they get outs with their fastball in high school? Can't get outs with your fastball in high school. You're not going to get outs with your fastball at college. And if you can't get outs with your fastball on the college level, you'd better have just something nasty, because just having length or big breaking balls don't matter. It better have some steep depth to it and be late with its action. And so we do need to see, can we get outs with our fastball? And I think it's a teachable thing. I think it's okay for guys to give up hits, especially as freshmen and sophomore. It's okay in February and March. Give up some hits. Let them learn, because the more they do it early, the more they'll figure it out as they go. And that leads me into mine. It's a pet peeve of mine. Again, it goes back to my pitching background, but I call it 2-strike energy. You're dominating the zone, boom, strike 1, boom, strike 2. And then all of a sudden we get really defensive with the way we're going to pitch. We don't want him to hit it. We don't want to give him something to hit. This idea of don't. We threw strike 1 because I'm going to hit the glove. Boom. I throw strike 2 because I'm going to hit the glove. Boom. Now on my third pitch, I don't want to do something. That doesn't work. You can't control don'ts. Don't let him swing. I can't control as a pitcher whether or not he swings. I don't care how bad a pitch is, or I could throw it and roll it up there. I could throw it over the backside. He still has his own mind that he could swing. So this idea that we don't want him to do something on that 0-2 pitch, we were very offensive in our philosophy. Now, we would expand, but we were going to expand to where we wanted to. We had a specific spot we were throwing, and we were being extremely aggressive to that spot, and that pitch led directly to the next pitch and how we were going to do it. So if we elevated fastball, we wanted to elevate off of where our breaking ball started. And so we were able to teach our guys that. If we're burying breaking ball, we want it to be in the strike zone at decision time. So that makes that difference in terms of, does the ball start up here or does the ball start lower? If it's fastball away, we're going to hit the glove. our catcher has to know exactly where to set up because our pitcher's job is not to not let him hit it. Our pitcher's job is to hit the glove, and everything else kind of takes care of itself. So that two strike energy, and you see it all the time. Oh, we got to be better. We got to don't do that. We got to be. He just made two great pitches. Okay, we missed. Make another great pitch, dude. Let's go. And when we stay controlled and we pile up great pitch after great pitch after great pitch after great pitch over the course of 7 innings, we're going to win. But if we get really filtered into, oh my gosh, don't in an 0-2 count, then it can go haywire, and we've seen it go haywire really quickly on good arms.
Yeah, kind of with that, you getting a lopsided game pitcher out there, and trying to pick guys off, and with a 5-run lead, and all of a sudden ball gets down the line, then guy on third, then you get a walk, and just kind of you have all the momentum, just stay with the hitter, get the out, and get your team off the field.
Just do what we do, baby. Just do what we do. We do it every day in practice. Just do it. If you're not doing it in practice right now, you're not going to do it in a state championship game. But we see it. We'll see a guy try to speed his pickoff move up and try to throw one over to the first baseman. I almost got him. And now it's down the line. He goes first to third, and now we're in a nut-cutting situation. Just do what we do. If you're average every day in practice, then you just be average in the state championship game or the first round game or whatever. You can't elevate. If you want to be at a higher level in those games, be at a higher level in practice. Make those mistakes. How fast can you go in practice? And then can you dial it back a little bit in games? And it gives you those situations. And ton of great coaches, ton of great programs in our state. And it's easy from the sideline. I do enjoy being a Monday morning quarterback. I do enjoy my pay and my contract not being aligned with the play that we're seeing on the field. So it does allow me to be critical of those things. So that was fun for me. I got that off my chest. But we see a lot of really good things. We're out watching games. It's just fun to kind of go through these things sometimes because we don't get to do it on the field anymore.
Yep, and you see the frustration in the coaches' faces when they've worked on it in practice and coached it, and then the mistake still happens. You're like, we've been doing that for 2 months now, and it still happens. And we've
It
both been
does.
there before, so
It
we
does.
get that.
And it's amazing. It's amazing the difference between seniors and sophomores. Older players have seen more. They've done more. They've been the speed of the game more. Being older matters as long as they're still engaged. And I think with most of the teams that we've followed this year, especially the ones that we've had in our Power 25, their senior classes have done a really good job of staying engaged. We haven't started looking forward to their college deal. I know where I was this past weekend, I think we saw like 6 schools' proms come through the different ballrooms. So it's kind of prom season and some of that. So there's still some things that those seniors have to get through and stay engaged with as their season comes. But I think if you're having a good year at this point and you've played well after spring break, now you can really start to set that goal of how deep can we go in the state tournament.
And you can see the teams that are having fun playing together versus some of the teams that maybe are a little uptight or feel some pressure, and that definitely makes a big difference in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we see it every year. Just get that first win, and then it can kind of calm down. But getting that first win, and I got a specific team in 1994 as that I point to every year. But that first one's a tough one. You get that first one, and then you can kind of relax into your mode and get used to the tournament play. So let's move forward. We talked last week about the new NCAA contact rule, which today is the 26th. Contact's done. If you're not a junior or senior, you should not be talking to college coaches. If you call them, they should be very, very direct. Appreciate your phone call. Not allowed to speak with you. We'll be able to August 1st prior to your junior year. Click. Not being able to set up phone calls through travel teams or through PBR or anything like that anymore. But we did see kind of a phenomenon over the last 2 weeks, Matt. Give me a little bit lay of the land. What did you see as we're following some of these younger players as coaches were getting ready for this rule change?
Felt like summertime. You scroll through Twitter and 25's committing, 26 is committing, and even a 2028 here in
That's
North
right.
Carolina committing. So it was very interesting. A lot of conversations with people on that, and the verdict's out. if it'll change or if it slows down for a couple weeks and then we hit summertime and it picks back up.
I'm interested to see how it plays out, especially with those guys in the last 2 weeks that have made some commitments. And I talked to about four of them or four of their parents, and all of them were dream school. Coaches were great, great fit, has the academics. So I'm getting ready to make a broad statement, and it's not directed at anyone because every single individual's recruiting process is different. What they're looking for, why they're committing is different. But those players that have committed have lost complete control of what's going to happen to them in the next 2 years. They're not allowed to have contact with their schools. I'm waiting for the way schools are going to kind of get around that to their commits. Whether they're sending like passing notes and during class, you're kind of talking to the coach. Hey, can you tell him this for me? I don't know how they're going to do it, but get to August 1 of that junior year, those guys just kind of been sitting on the sideline waiting for this phone call to happen. And very few schools are going to continue to evaluate those players. So now if we get to August 1, the coach picks up the phone and goes, hey, we just got four other commitments and we're excited, but we're going to be a little overloaded and hang in there with us. We'll figure it out. But I don't know what that scholarship's going to be. We'll see. Just hang in there. And now you wait another 6 months, 7 months, and hey, we're going to bring you in as a recruited walk-on your freshman year, and then we're going to figure out the money as your sophomore, but we'll hang in there with us. We're going to figure it out. Those guys don't have a whole lot of leverage, whereas the guys that remain uncommitted that are higher level players, I'm not talking about all players, but higher level players, they're going to have 10, 20 schools trying to vie for their services, trying to set up visits. And those players are going to have some leverage in terms of making their decisions and putting some pressure on schools in terms of where do you really see me? Am I a top tier guy for you or am I the next tier guy for you? And you talked about when schools are bringing kids on visits. It mattered a lot in your commitment process. With schools that you were talking to, one school kind of put you on the second weekend. That school's gone. I'm moving on. I think, and again, broad, the guys that have committed here in the last couple of weeks have lost some of that power.
Yeah, um, how that process goes will be interesting. I'm sure they'll find ways to keep in touch with them, and then you go into if you're committed right now, and all of a sudden have an injury, and so you have to have Tommy John. What's your standing going to be with that school when you can't have legal communication, and
Right.
like you said with the visits, I think from a player standpoint, those schools that are doing everything they can to get you in first date possible, that says they're all in on you versus the school that's maybe pushing you back. Hey, you got this football game and 4 weeks, want to bring you in for an official there, but they're bringing in kids their first three home football games, and if you're not in that group, what does that say to you?
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to kind of follow. If you're a player and you're hearing from coaches and you've kind of figured out how they're going to let us know. Put it out there, let the world know how these guys are doing it. And we're not trying to get anybody in trouble. We're not going to publish anything that's against the rules. But if there's a way that people have found a way around it, allow us to continue to educate because I don't know how they're gonna do it. And I know you're pretty hung up on they are gonna do it. They're gonna figure out a way.
Yeah,
I just don't see how they're gonna do it. So um,
I I think the rules intended for good for
yep.
coaches and players. I think those guys have done it a certain way for so long. I just can they let themselves slow down and not worry about 3 and 4 years out, and then if you're a player, going through the process and you've had communication with schools, and then you go that first week and there's no contact. What do you feel pressure? Feel like you're not being recruited anymore, or do you realize it's hey, these are the new rules. I don't have to worry about that right now.
Yeah, the first class is going to go through a lot of that. They'll be the guinea pig. Years 2 and 3, I think it'll calm down a little bit in terms of okay, we know what the lay of the land is now. Kind of like what we know. We got a feel for how things work now. If you're the top 3% of your class in North Carolina, you're going to have a chance to have committed by the time you're a junior. And that's the way it's rolled. Whether it's freshman year or sophomore year, it's that top 3%. The top 8 to 10% typically commit when they're juniors. And then the other 90 and another, what was that, 35% commit during the fall of their senior year. and then the other 55% commit during the after November of their senior year. We know that because we've seen those numbers play out for 6 years. We followed those numbers, and it's played out for longer than that. This is going to change that, obviously. So, how quickly it changes it and how these guys adapt to it. That first class they're in for a rough road because they don't know. It's like what's the roller coaster at Disney World that's completely dark? My wife,
Space Mountain.
There you go, Space Mountain. They're on Space Mountain. They don't know which way the turns and twists are going to come. But after they get off the ride and they talk to the people that are in the line, by the time you get to the end of the line, they're going to go, okay, I have an idea of what's going on at least. I'm still going in dark because I've never been through it before myself, but at least I know kind of what to expect. So we'll tie this thing up. What are you looking forward to? I know we got one more Power 25 coming out next week as we start heading towards the state playoffs. We got conference tournaments coming up. What are you looking forward to here in the next week as you're getting out and seeing some guys?
Does any team win a conference tournament that's not in the top half of their league to really change the seeding?
Yep.
Last Power 25 will be interesting to see how many of those teams lose in the first round.
The kiss of death.
Never fails. And then we got NFL draft tomorrow. I know we'll both be watching that or following along with that. Exciting time of year for football fans, and love hearing the evaluations from those guys evaluating football guys, and see what we can use with that. In some of the baseball write-ups.
Reddit has not jumped on this yet, but I am hearing that I am going to be in the top 5. So I'm waiting for Reddit to push that, Vegas to jump on it, put a number on that thing, and then if any GMs out there need a phone number, I've got it. I can carry a clipboard, baby. I have no issues doing that. I can do it with the best of them. So that thing's been wild with Levis and watching Reddit. And maybe the Panthers did call him. I don't know. But watching a Reddit board change Vegas odds on where a guy going from maybe the 4th quarterback to maybe the 1st overall pick. That's been incredible. So, even, and it's something, we can step back and look at baseball deals like that a little bit too, where a guy gets hot and Matt Payne goes in and watches him. And then the coach of that team calls all the team. Matt Payne was in here today. They're going to make a move. Matt Payne was in here today. And all of a sudden the next time he throws, there's 20 schools there all trying to make a decision. That's how that works. It's like what we're seeing with Levis and that Reddit board. So that's been interesting to follow. But yeah, I'm right there with you and see what my Falcons do. If we can kind of secure up our defense and find another playmaker on offense, we're probably going to the Super Bowl this year. So,
well, every team's going to the Super Bowl right now, and I think you said every year, every guy gets the one guy they wanted.
That's it.
Picking first or 32nd, they get the guy they wanted the whole time.
We were zeroed in on him from the time he was a junior. So we're going to end it right there. For Matt Payne, I'm Brandon Hall. This is the Prep Baseball Report of North Carolina podcast, and we'll see you at the field.